Hi, everybody. Monday on Astral Oracles. Happy to be with you. There's also some other stuff on another channel over at Coffee you can find if you want to. But we are looking into truth oracles and awakening today, often as we often are. But what's the deal with the truth about channeling? Truth is an elusive concept, and in a mystical sense, it's pure being, or it's sat, it's the polarity of existence that is truth unto itself. And then there are like these gradations of truth, where it's like true enough for the situation at hand is probably the way to look at it. It's something channeling that I've had moral qualms about, and it kind of pendulates between me thinking that, oh, maybe this isn't a very responsible thing to be doing, and then also me having a whole lot of fun with the information that comes forward, and just practicing this and reading the energies and seeing how it works. As I've sometimes pointed out before, an oracle can kind of be thought of as a drama or a karma accelerator. So you come to it with all your notions, agendas, conceits, karmas, and it will give you an answer that matches that, and that somehow tries to get that process accelerated into a point of higher conscious understanding. Consciousness is what negates drama. It's again karma. It's again this idea that when you become aware, things do not have the blind momentum to be able to realize themselves through you. But before you become aware, and this is the cruelty of reality, or of existence, before you become aware, how you perceive these karmas is as if there's this kind of inanimate, hazy world out there that's producing occurrences for you that you have to deal with. This is also why entities, even in a slightly higher vibrational range that ourselves, such as the hybrid program, which are only essentially 5D, only 5D entities, they still always emphasize you create your own reality, because they are intensely, acutely aware of these energetic realities and don't experience the outside as distinct from your eternal processes. And this can, of course, result in a lot of misconceptions, weird ideas, strange dead ends that they send people down. And it's a challenge for me as the channeler sometimes to go along with it. And I've taught myself to do that, never question what it is, just translate the energy, put it forward in words, and let it work, whatever it is, and then trust that will be of a service to the higher principle that's trying to unfold itself through people. But to give you some examples of how they may lie to people from our perspective, how they may be fairly untruthful in obvious ways. Well, for instance, I've had experiences where um, a woman in her late 40s may ask me if like, can she have will she have a life with several children, and they tell her yes, and I can tell that that's not true. And again, it's an energy reading. It's not a miracle workshop. It's You can't just pay somebody and then they'll rewire your entire biological system so you're able to conceive when human beings aren't able to conceive. There are so many complex factors at play in our evolutionary and our spiritual system that makes for not having biological children at that age very helpful, neither to the children nor to the people having them. And so that's kind of the way that reality has arranged itself. And I can't help but, this is a I'm aware that this is kind of a serious issue. So it's hard not to feel like, how are you not deceiving this person. But at the same time, it's, well, have you looked into adopting? Essentially, if you can't have children and you aren't interested in adopting, you definitely shouldn't be having children at all, because that means that you'll just you're not attached to actually loving somebody else or caring for it. You just want to extend your own sense of impermanence through reproduction. So this is a kind of a clear-cut example of where they may actually, accelerate a certain conceit in a person in order to bring them into the place where they are confronted with themselves. Then another example is, the question is my Kundalini active, and how active is it? If your Kundalini wasn't active, you'd be dead. Kundalini expresses how Holy Spirit materializes and moves through the human body. And if that's not stirring, if it's not moving through a human body, then that human body isn't animate, and it will disintegrate. It turns into dead matter. So your Kundalini is always active. And it can't be active at a certain percentage, because that would rely on all kinds of factors. Percentages aren't absolutes, they're relatives. And if you're thinking about, did I have a Kundalini awakening? That is, again, to perhaps sound a little cruel. If you're wondering, then you didn't have one. Like then you're for sure, like, that is like going to the doctor. Let's say you're 10, you go to the doctor. Doctor, have I hit puberty yet? And he'll be like, well, are you having nightly emissions? Have you begun having periods? No, what's a period? Well, then don't worry about it. It'll probably happen sooner or later, and we'll take it from there. Um, and of course, one of the things why they are perhaps interested in forwarding that conceit in the person is that will sort of accelerate their pursuit to try to look for something that will actually get them there faster than if they were disavowed of that misconception. But of course, if you're really wanting to have a Kundalini awakening, which will happen when it happens, because it's kind of the work and the timing of lifetimes, and it always comes in at the right time, spiritually speaking. If you're just eager to have one, what is driving you is essentially the same as, well, I'd really like to hit puberty so I don't feel in any way weird down in the locker room with the other ones who are already there. Then you may also notice, again, one of the reasons that they're often gentle with people, or they may feed their conceits, are that, I don't know how your experience of going through puberty was, but I think to most of us, it's very little consolation that other people have gone through it, because it's still, oh, I'm experiencing all these weird and unknown urges, and my body is doing weird things, and I can't control my energy, and I'm horny all the time, but girls won't even look at me. Or I was just playing with Barbies, and now I got all kinds of old creepy dudes not wanting to leave me alone in public spaces. And like, there's nothing really funny about dealing with these issues. And even though I have people in my life where I can find, okay, it can be sort of hard sometimes to really wish the very best and blessings upon them, then I wouldn't really wish a Kundalini awakening on my worst enemy. It's just, okay, I don't know if I stressed this enough, but I lost my job, my home, my house, my cat, my friends, my family, my sense of security, my sanity for a good while, certain stints of time. I've had aches, things that go through your system in ways that seem unbearable to hold, and there are very, very high suicide rates with the little data we have of people who encounter these experiences, because it really is that taxing and trying. So it's also, it can be a little strange sometimes when people come from that perspective. But notice how we intuitively do this to children, for instance, and young people. And it's actually an act of grace and concern that we also shelter them from some of these harder realizations. So I taught high school for a while, for instance, and the thing that you can't bring yourself to do with those, you leave what's called gymnasium in Europe, usually in Denmark around 18 or 20, you'll be in that age group. And that is, those are young people who are usually fairly fed up with going to school. And they have the sense that as soon as I get out of here, life will really commence, and I don't have to deal with all these sucky people, and everything will just be awesome, and I can go live my life. And then you meet them. You meet them 6 months later, where they're standing in some kind of sandwich shop down in one of the local malls, and really looking mopey, as if life has dealt them a very unhappy surprise, because they've just moved out of a system where they were increasing in significance, importance, and recognition. They were really developing themselves and having mastered what it means to go to school. And then they're churned into this super unknown world where they're at the bottom of the hierarchy, and they have to learn all kinds of things that they don't want to, and deal with existential dread. And all of a sudden I had a lot of money to spend a year ago when I was in school, and now it's the 10th, and I paid my rent and spent the rest on beer, and now I have to live off like potatoes and margarine for 3 weeks, right? So like, it's also these experiences that only serve themselves up when you're ready for it. And I think that is kind of the humorous gentleness that we all have, and that awareness needs to have, because the consequence is often what we call brutal honesty. And brutal honesty is, if anybody is kind of defending their right to be brutally honest, that's usually just them insisting on their right to treat other people like an asshole because they enjoy it. And that's of course not that considerate. Um, but there is a strange humor to it. And I think that the reason that I go through this is it's really something I've been considering a lot lately, but I also identify more and more with the archetype of Hermes in this job, and in this work. And of course, the archetype of Hermes, he's always sitting at the crossroads. And there's somebody, then, random travelers, they pass him by, and they go, oh, I need to find my soulmate, and where's the magic powers, and all these things I want. And then he goes, well, have you tried going that way? And, give it 3 months, 6 months, they come rambling back, and like, oh, I didn't find the thing, and you told me, and like, oh, what now? And then, well, maybe have you tried the road less traveled? Okay, I'll go down that road then. And then they'll come rambling back again, right? And then maybe taking the road less traveled, what they found out was, oh, there were actually some stuff they didn't expect down there that was actually slightly interesting, and made them pay more attention to what was actually going on, and what was actually calling them. And announcing them itself to be appreciated, rather than all these conceits of, oh, where's that complimentary the principle that will make me feel good forever and ever? Do you mean death? Well, that'll also be here when at some point, in lieu of that, you can try heroin, or you could just try to reset your ambitions and be cool with where you are at the present moment. And then, oh no, I'm not doing that, and I still have things to do, and ramble down a third road, and then when they get back at some point, right, it's like he's just sitting there, that god at the way post, is just smiling like, yeah, okay, that's where you wanted to go, then how did that turn out for you? Okay. And at some point it's like, oh, don't, yeah, I think I'll just sit out here at the crossroads and have a rest for a while. And that's of course the point where you're really arriving, because you're always on the journey, you're always at the crossroads, you're always like diverted into 1,000 spaces. And if you just sit down and go, yeah, I assume I'll get there when I get there, it'll be fine, let's just appreciate that it's a nice day while we're out here. That is the kind of thing that seems to be growing, because that's of course the very positive thing that I've experienced, and that seems to really supersede all the negative stuff, is that there is this kind of weird Job motif where you get the stuff back in a way that's even better. So I actually kind of like this house, for instance. It has a lot of soul. and I do feel like very content in general. And there's like a very lessened sense of existential dread. It's not something I really feel much anymore, which it definitely was before. So there is also kind of these states of connection, fulfillment, meaning, purpose, we could call it, that seems to arise with doing the work. But it's always the work, and the idea is, of course, also that, no, can't nobody be free unless we're all free. So anyone having any kind of experience or enlightenment is from the divine perspective, where we're all a universal soul. It's actually me having that in another figure, and it doesn't really matter if it's me personally experiencing that, because that kind of personal experience, in the form that it needs to take, in the way I need to grow into to becoming an adult, will take the way it does, at the pace it does, and with the timing that it naturally needs to unfold with. And that is also, again, I think that the puberty metaphor or image is actually pretty good, because uh, there is also this sense of arriving in adulthood, where things, of course, uh, are a lot cooler than when you were a kid, because you also get to feel more on top of the world, more as if you can handle stuff because you've been through it already. And I tend to think of these Kundalini experiences, these awakenings, these shifts into, uh, let's say, higher states of spiritualization, connection, um, animation. That means essentially, becoming more of your soul. That these form the next step in human evolution, and it is somehow strangely embedded in our physiognomies that we can go through those stages. Um, so that was some of my takes on it. And then I think an interesting entity to channel on this would be Guan Yin, because she is the Avalokitesvara. She is the very compassionate bodhisattva that comes in to guide us through that. And let's get her to talk about these principles of honesty, and the, let's call it, the pedagogy of the heavens. Much love to you guys. I extend the blessings of the universal heart center into the individual heart center, the overpouring fountain of love that I extend to you. I seek to awaken and mirror it in your own body, in your own center. Overpouring, what does that mean? It means that the love, the energy, the sensation and emotion that is active within you, it is too much for any cup to hold. It too will overspill as you try to fill the shapes of your life, the playthings of your existence, with this great universal energy within you. Because it truly is within you. It is never without that this energy finds you and connects to you. Though it does appear that way when you first encounter it. There is a spark within you that has mirrored and attracted the great fire that you encounter. This is the awakening crisis. This is the breaking down of your life. This is the moment where you dedicate yourself to the free diving experience. You dive into this fountain. You step into the flames. You jump out over an unknown ledge, knowing that upward winds will catch you and carry you where you need to go. Therefore, it is always with the encounter of the unknown that you learn to know yourself. This is the riddle that the oracle poses. It sends you in unknown directions. It gives you hazy and cryptic instructions. And following them, you find that you have moved further into a wilderness that will teach you how to survive in it, that will speak to you as you move along this lost path. Move down this road in an unhurried, unrushed way. You are well aware that the journey is more important than the arrival. And that the way you undertake the mission is more important than what mission it is you undertake. Even lowly things can be charged with the lessons of love, of surrender, of trust, of faith, of connection, of compassion, mercy, of enlightenment. And even these lofty spaces, so often they lose sight of anything but the bright light that blinds them. And so, is there any other way to go than rising upwards, closer into the blinding light, until it sears you and throws you to the ground, there to begin all over again? Travel lightly then. Do not bring too many containers to the eternal wellspring. You may think that you can fill them up and proudly carry them back sharing them with the people you left behind, showing them, here are the vessels that I carried to that eternal fountain, that I filled with the life-giving etheric waters of the divine, that I brought back to you, and now I dispense of them to you. You may think that, but your vessels will break when they try to contain the boundless energy of the universal source. This wellspring you can only drink from yourself. Then you can return. People may feel that you are restored, that you have had a drink from happy and healthy waters, that there is something vital, invigorated, luminous about you. And you can share how you got there. You can lay out the map. You can give them directions. And yet, when they get to the crossroads, they will find that someone, something the ministry of the divine, the ones who lay out the paths for others to follow. They have changed the route. They have rerouted the route. And therefore, you are as lost as your darling friend who, sharing his or her joy with you, told you which way to go. We are, however, many who sit at this crossroad, patiently guarding you. Therefore I, Guan Yin, I volunteered, I decided that my friendly face, my hand of companionship, I would extend to you, to at least provide you some friendship, some solace, some consolation here on this long journey you were traversing. Therefore, having made the trek on all paths leading to Source, I trace each one of them back into the individual human heart. And there I point to the map and the compass, the Wayfinder's kit that is already available to you. Therefore, the vibrancies of your heart, they speak both of a presence and an absence. The absence is what you seek. It is the thing attracting you, stirring the needle of your compass, directing you there. It is the universal pull from the magnetic pole. It is this great attraction that matches the absence within you and promises to fulfill it. And true is that promise. The presence is the map. It is all discernibly there for you. Just need to look at it right, to understand the important plots in your total reality, the information that structures and orders everything in your life. If you take away all the disturbances, all the superfluous things that a map does not need in order to tell you how the roads connect, how there is a path through every landscape, through every lifetime, through every experience. Gentle weathers, they follow you on your travels. Gentle airs, they call you into unknown sensation, unknown experience, and the delight of understanding the benevolence of all there is in its deep and interconnected state of harmony. Smile and rejoice, laugh and feel loved. Indeed, in this cosmic joke, the world is the punchline, and you're the one telling your amusing stories, allowing for attention to arise and to look at the world joyfully anew, slightly askew, yet in full harmonic resonance with the deepest compassion, love and participation. I, Guan Yin, I bid you farewell, extending the friendship of the universal, of the great all, to your multitude, to the many figures, faces, and forms that you are. In love, farewell, sweet ones. That was Guan Yin. Much love to you guys.